Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Is Mike Tomlin the right guy to lead the Steelers into next season and beyond? It may seem like a weird question for a guy who's been with the same team for so long. Also, Kyrie returned in time to face the Nuggets, and the Vikings don't have to decide on Sam Darnold today, which bodes well for his return. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
Mike Tomlin had a message for potential teams who might think to trade for him or inquire about it. He said, save your time after the Pittsburgh Steelers 28-14 loss on Wild Card Weekend. There were some questions about Mike Tomlin. Chris Carter from Locked On Steelers joins me now. And Chris, as our pal Marcus Mosher from Locked On Cowboys pointed out, Doug Peterson has won a Super Bowl and been fired twice since Mike Tomlin has won a playoff game. At what point is going 500 and making the playoffs not enough for Pittsburgh?
Well, let's be clear. They've been above 500, I think, every year since 2019. But winning in the playoffs has been the problem for this team since their loss to the Jaguars in 2017, and that was like the last time I think that this team was in a position where they felt like, okay, they're in a strong position. They can be a serious contender for the Super Bowl. But then you look at the years after that, 2018, Le'Veon Bell doesn't show up. 2019, Antonio Brown's gone. Ben Roethlisberger's hurt. 2020, they look like they're good for their first 11-0 stretch, and then they kind of fall apart at the end. Their age catches up to them, especially not having a bye week, and then they lose to the Browns. But then they weren't going to beat the Chiefs in 2021 in the playoff game, even though they shut out Patrick Mahomes for a quarter and a half, and the defense gave them a 7-0 lead with a turnover with TJ Watt. And they weren't going to beat the Bills last year without TJ Watt with Mason Rudolph. But this was the first time this year, I think, that since that 2020 game against the Browns, where it was like, okay, they have a shot in this one, and they still lost in the same manner. And so you have to ask your question is, what is the big problem right now for the Steelers for getting over the hump? And I think if you look right now, the Rooneys, they just gave Mike Tomlin an extension. They're not going to cut him loose, after that, saying, hey, we have confidence after you fought your way to with 3 wins in a row to make the playoffs last year. You're making progress, but part of the progress is also, is showing like, hey, there's also been stagnation because they haven't been able to get out of the first round of the playoffs. And I think that's where the Steelers are kind of at. They've made progress in some areas, but with the progress they've made in some areas, they've also regressed in others. Like, for example, they were one of the best run-stopping teams not too long ago, and then they gave up 300 yards on the ground in the playoff game. Yeah. So I think what the Steelers are going through right now with Mike Tomlin is they firmly believe, hey, they're going to stick with him. This is also what the Rooneys do. Bill Cowher got an extension after missing the playoffs for 3 straight years, including 2 of those being he had a 6-10 season and a 7-9 season. When his team looked like they were going over, but they were like, hey, this guy has a plan. We believe in it. We want to invest in it. That's what we do. And then he eventually built a core that went to and won a Super Bowl. Mike Tomlin's already won a Super Bowl, and I think that they're putting faith in him to get through that. They also have a new general manager, and they're trying to catch up after several misses by the previous general manager before that change happened. And I think that's what the Steelers are looking at right now. When it comes to Mike Tomlin, they're saying, hey, we're going to give him a chance to kind of fix things and kind of set things straight, but there is an obvious talent gap. Like, again, like you look at the AFC teams in the playoffs, there was, there's Patrick Mahomes at the 1 seed, Josh Allen at the 2 seed, Lamar Jackson at the 3 seed, CJ Stroud at the 4 seed, and the Steelers, and even Justin Herbert, who didn't even play well in his play game, at the 5 seed, and the Steelers got Russell Wilson. So I think they kind of acknowledge, like, hey, there's definitely some deficiencies, and you want to fight through that. But I don't think the Steelers are looking at Mike Tomlin and thinking, oh, he's the reason why they can't get out the playoffs. I think that, like a bunch of people have kind of acknowledged, he's a big reason why they get into the playoffs. And sure, they lose when they get there, but he's kind of propping them up to make them maybe better than what their roster suggests they should be.
I hear all of that, and I think Mike Tomlin is a really good coach. But I am wondering if this is just a function of what it means to be a CEO type coach. I know Mike Tomlin has a defensive background, very good. Like he has a little bit of everything you hear all the time. You've talked about it on this show, Chris. When the offense needs a little boost, he'll go in offensive meeting rooms. When the defense need a boost, he's in those defensive meeting rooms trying to help them out. But when you're cycling through offensive coordinators, cycling through quarterbacks, it just feels like if this were a coach where you're the offensive play caller or something like that, that it would feel different because you could elevate one side of the ball specifically. Or if you're not doing that, you're out of there because you're not doing the thing that we've asked you to do. I'm just wondering if this is just proof at how hard it is to be successful over time when that is the style of coach that you are.
Oh, I mean, there's always proof of that, right? Like, Dan Campbell, he's a CEO coach. Like he was a special teams coach, and now he's kind of.
And we'll see how he does without Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn as his coordinators.
Yeah, and that's just the thing. Let's see how that goes. But like for Mike Tomlin, I think one thing that you've seen from him is that Mike Tomlin has found a way to fix almost every position group at some point in his career. When he inherited the group, he had inherited a bad offensive line. In fact, when they won the Super Bowl 43, a lot of people said that was the worst offensive line to ever win a Super Bowl. Ben Roethlisberger saying, "Who's laughing now?" And then about like 5 years after that, they had Marquise Pouncey, David DeCastro, all pros, and just they had one of the best offensive lines in football for the better part of a decade. The secondary went from being really good in the late 2000s to really bad in the mid 2010s to being really good in the late 2010s. The running back position has been up and down. The receiver position has been very high for the Steelers after being really bad. So he's at some point been part of an organization and helped cultivate the fixing of basically every position group at some point in his career with the Steelers, I'd say, except quarterback, because Ben Roethlisberger, granted, he also helped Ben Roethlisberger have the best statistical career part of his career throughout what we've seen from him, because he had some really his numbers really boosted under Mike Tomlin, especially when they brought in Todd Haley. But I think that's where they're trying to have confidence and say, hey, yeah, he's that CEO type of coach. He is more defensive leaning, but he has had the success to fix several problems the Steelers have had over the years. And that's where I think the Roonies are saying, we're going to trust him to be part of this process. But clearly there need to be some reevaluations. The offensive line, this was supposed to be a team that power ran the ball with Arthur Smith. They were supposed to be dominating on the ground in December and January. The run game was nowhere to be found. And part of that, I think, came to the offensive line. Broderick Jones didn't develop the way they wanted. I say Zach Frazier did, the rookie there, and sure they had other injuries on the offensive line. Their first rounder never played, Troy Fautanu, and they're one of their highest paid offensive players, James Daniels, got hurt at the start of the season. But still, they needed to be an identity on offense, and they never reached that identity, which kind of messed up the rest of their plans there. So I think part of it is they're acknowledging things need to change, but they want Mike Tomlin to still oversee and be part of that because he's fixed several of these problems before.
You can stay up to date all year on the Pittsburgh Steelers by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Steelers on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Your Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, the Mavs got Kyrie Irving back. Before we get to that, though, the Lions may be getting a key contributor back. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Impossible, right? Well, right now, new customers can bet $5 and get 300 smackaroos in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement for the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. The Rams crushed the Vikings, but aren't getting any respect as they head into the matchup with the Eagles. I tell you, FanDuel has Philly favored by 6.5 points. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Detroit Lions running back David Montgomery was a full participant in Tuesday's walkthrough practice. Montgomery said he is excited to return for the divisional round after missing Detroit's final 3 regular season games with a right MCL injury. The Lions are preparing to face the Commanders after Jaden Daniels' red-hot performance in his playoff debut. And a stout run game could go a long way to winning that matchup. Montgomery says he's confident in the knee and wouldn't be out there if he wasn't ready. Water is starting to find its level with the Denver Nuggets and the Dallas Mavericks. They're now in the thick of the Western Conference standings here. It's early for playoff talk, but here we are. The two squared off in a battle of potential Western Conference contenders last night. Kyrie Irving returned, and it didn't much matter for the Denver Nuggets. The Dallas Mavericks playing shorthanded as well. Nick Angstad from Locked On Mavs reacted after the game.
We'll talk about the Mavs versus Nuggets. We'll talk about Derek Lively leaving with an ankle injury because, of course, we'll talk about what the non-stars showed so far in the last couple of games without Luka and Kyrie. But I want to start here slightly. Let's start with Kyrie. Kyrie Irving returned to form. He was listed as questionable yesterday, which was a little bit of a surprise to me. I thought he was going to be out a little bit longer. Were you surprised to see Kyrie back so quick?
Yeah, honestly, I thought they were going to do what we've kind of seen them do at times with, this is how they did with Maxey, where it's like, yeah, he's questionable, but he's not actually going to play. He's just going to go through the pregame stuff, and then we're going to work him back into playing. I was pretty surprised as to how quickly he returned, especially with that back-to-back tomorrow night. Now, I don't know what the deal is going to be with that, if he plays tomorrow night or not, but it was good to see him back out there. It wasn't his best game or anything like that, and you could tell that he was a little bit rusty and trying to get it going, but it was good to see him back out there. I mean, it's huge moving forward.
Yeah, I don't want to even bring up his stat line.
No, he wasn't good tonight. But
four of 18 from the field, missed all 3 of his threes, and 2 assists, 4 steals, minus 17 when he was in the game for the Mavs, only 11 points. But I think just the fact that Kyrie Irving returned, like you said, and a little earlier than some of us thought, is a big positive for the Mavericks. This team needed something else, and they need somebody else to really inject them with some offense. Tonight was not the game. We'll talk about why and give some of those reasons. But the fact that Kyrie is back honestly gives me a little more hope for this season, because I thought he was going to be out a little bit longer. The Mavs would go through this stretch that's much longer than anyone would have hoped without Luka and Kyrie, and would have dropped a bunch of more games. And I don't know, I'm feeling a little bit better now that Kyrie is back. Tonight is not a night where you look at this game and you go, man, I feel good about this Mavs team. But the fact that Kyrie is back, I'm going to take as a win tonight.
Yeah, I mean, sure. It's good to have him back. I expected him to be back soon. All the people who thought that he'd come back the same time as Luka, I'd never thought that.
It's just a back injury. A back injury, they're just so sometimes you just don't know how long they're going to be out. You don't know if you could tweak it easily. I don't know. I'm really overcautious with back injuries, I guess.
Yeah, I know. But the whole reporting on it and the way they were talking, I never thought it was too serious. Just hopefully they're being, they know what they're doing. And I'm assuming they do, and they're not rushing him back or anything like that. And they feel like he's comfortable. So, yeah, I mean, there wasn't, I'm just going to be honest, there was not a lot of positives here. This was one of the worst games of the season.
100%.
Full stop. Compounding with the fact that you really let one slip a few nights ago. We were talking you got to win the ones that are there for you to win. I don't know if we were saying this before during the show or after, where I was telling you, you're not getting that Nuggets team again a couple nights from now. You knew they were going to come out guns a-blazing after their horrid start in that game on whatever day of the week that was. Sunday? I don't even know what day of the week it is. But
it's Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, tough.
It was. And Kyrie coming back is a positive I'm going to take from it. But then the rest of it, I might as well just get into it. Mavs lose this game to the Nuggets, and it's the worst game of the season that they've played so far. It's one of the ones where you look at it and you go, oh, there's just it didn't seem like there was any real fight. Didn't seem like there was any real cohesion on offense or on defense. Guys were just losing their man all over the place on head fakes, and it just felt like everybody on the Mavericks was playing at half speed in this game.
Yeah, I mean, that was I've given them a lot of props even during their losing stretch here recently, where I've said, you know what, they played hard. You can't fault them too much there. They just lack some talent somewhere now with all these guys out. I thought the first half, I don't know what that was. It felt like they were sleepwalking. Awful. It felt like the Nuggets were playing a different sport. I mean, the energy and speed that they were playing with flying around the court, it felt like the Mavs were playing in quicksand. It's games like tonight where you do miss your athletes. You miss just having guys who run up and down the floor and are playing at 110% and are giving you lob dunks in transition whenever the team just needs some type of spark.
Taking a charge or something.
Yeah, taking a charge, getting a chase down block, something, right, where the energy is just lacking severely. And I mean, this was just sleepwalking at the gates. You don't usually going to effort because it's just kind of a very elementary level analysis on things to say they didn't try, because usually they are trying, but that was a really out of character first half.
You can stay up to date on the Dallas Mavericks by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Mavericks on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the Vikings don't have to decide now on Sam Darnold, and that's a good thing. Could Rocket Money help you find subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? I have to be honest. I have found subscriptions that I forgot I was paying for, or that I wasn't maximally saving on because I could have bundled them or gotten them for free through another service. Rocket Money can help you track it all down and make it easy for you. It's a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, but does more than that. Rocket Money can help monitor your spending, lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's your subscriptions, your spending habits, or even goals you want to hit this year. I personally need the subscription tracker because I don't pay close enough attention to that stuff. So to have someone else do it for me, that would be wonderful. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked on. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. Go there today. Rocketmoney.com/locked on. A couple of weeks ago, it was a done deal that Sam Darnold will be wearing purple next year. Now it seems obvious that Minnesota should move on from him. Locked On Vikings host Luke Braun says it's a good thing the Vikings don't have to make this decision today.
This decision does not get made on January 13th or January 14th. Okay, this decision gets made in February when we've got a month of distance from all of this. When we go, yeah, that's how it ended, but most of the year, 90% of the year was fantastic. Yeah, the last two were bad, but so much of it was good that you're going to approach it a little more holistically. When we think of, the year that they had, it's going to be, yeah, very good, but, which has been Darnold all year. Good, but. And so what do you offer that as a contract? And here, crucially, here's how this is going to play out behind the scenes. Darnold's agent is going to probably have an understanding of what the Vikings are offering Darnold or intend to offer Darnold. Okay, we take that, right? Now he's going to go at various places. He's going to go talk to GMs and owners and people and say, what would you offer Sam Darnold? He's going to do this before free agency. Okay, maybe not allowed to, but it's going to happen. Deal with it at the combine or whatever. A couple months removed after some crazy thing happens in the divisional game and we've got a Super Bowl narrative that all went crazy and, the AFC Championship was insane. After all of that stuff is totally washed away, this wild card loss that will get mostly forgotten and just kind of be another one on his resume. You're going to look at these gaudy stats. You're going to look at this whole thing. And then you're going to ask, the GM of the Titans or whoever, what would you pay for this guy? And you'll get a number. And if those numbers are even close to the Vikings number, they're going to say, thanks, Vikings, but no thanks. We're going to have all these teams bid on us and see if we can get any of these deals to come up. And that's going to be okay. If they all say, yeah, but we don't really like what you did in the playoffs, we're probably good. We'll draft Cam Ward. We're good. Then he goes back to the Vikings and he says, we'll take it. And you get some kind of mini extension.
One of the biggest problems is not just that it's Sam Darnold that the Vikings have to make a decision about. They lead the NFL in snaps slated for free agency. And it's primetime players, frontline players. Byron Murphy, cornerback who went to a Pro Bowl this season. Aaron Jones, Harrison Smith. Those are established, respected, useful veteran players. And then Sam Darnold. Yes, they have $70 million in cap space to work with, but what if $40 million of that has to go to Sam Darnold? How can you, this team just won 14 games. I understand they went and got their butts kicked by the Rams, but this team felt like it was ahead of schedule. And so now next year, you have all these guys that could leave. Are you going to pay to re-sign them to then start JJ McCarthy and reset this all again? And if Brian Flores walks out the door, what does that do to your defensive infrastructure? It was Ed Donatel before that, and it didn't go great. This team sits on a knife's edge right now, and it feels like this decision could make or break their next 5 years or longer, potentially, as a franchise. And finally, Tiger Woods back in action, not on a real golf course, in the TGL. He came out to Eye of the Tiger, week 2 of Tiger Woods' new league. Woods was out there paired with Kevin Kisner and Max Homa. Are people watching this? I guess it seems really fun to be there. I would love to go play, have some beers. If you're watching, I want to hear from you. If you're watching the TGL, I want to know if you know what TGL stands for. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, we get you set for one of the best weekends of the year, divisional round weekend. So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.